if you're lactose intolerant, you can't watch this movie because it's got so much cheese.
Sorry, yeah, I gotta go. You guys can do this on your own now.
Nope, end it there. You agree 100%. I'm right.
Fellas, hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Kevin.
James.
Did you say hi, James?
What number drink are you on? He's just ignoring me.
Yes.
I thought that you were calling me James.
Correct.
I think me and James both thought that you were calling me
No.
James.
I was ignoring you
Nice.
and addressing my friend
I-
James, who showed up on time today.
I acknowledge you, Joey, and I also think Kevin's a piece of shit.
I acknowledge you, Joey, and I also think I am a piece of shit.
I'm glad we all acknowledge the obvious here.
I should have put that on the back of a shirt. Speaking of new merch, we don't have enough people interested in this podcast to sell it, but new merch, not in the store.
Joey, model it.
Joe's wearing it.
Joey,
right
model
now. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening,
Boom.
it's a nice little Flix Fellas shirt. Look at that.
Hell yeah.
Designed by the one and only Shannon Fahey.
Shout out.
Thank you very much. Who's designed all of our logos so far. The Flix
The
Fellas
one logo.
Instagram picture. Yeah, the one logo.
Hey, we love it.
Anyway, we're back for another historical piece. It's becoming our shtick a little bit because we've done two of them. So I think
Also,
is this
second Timothy Chalamet.
Shimalama ding
is it?
dong.
Oh,
Kind
yes,
of.
We did
The
talk
last
about
one was
Dune for
a-
a little bit. Yeah.
Dune!
Still counts.
So yes, we watched The King, starring Timothy Chalamet, Joel Edgerton, Edward Ashley, Sean Harris, Tom Lawrence, and Ben Mendelsohn, and a bunch of others. But those were the big names, I feel like. It follows Hal, a wayward prince and heir to the English throne, who is crowned King Henry V after his tyrannical father dies. Now the young king must navigate palace politics, the war his father left behind, and the emotional strings of his past life. So, fellas, as we do best, first reactions. Oh, this is also Netflix, so everyone knows it's a Netflix original from...
Can you let me know who wrote it?
Yes.
And directed, I guess?
It was written and directed by David Mashad, and Joel Edgerton also wrote it. I didn't know he wrote too.
Okay.
But yes, came out in 2019, so fairly recent.
Mhm.
Timothy Chalamet is hot right now in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
People love Timothy Chalamet. But what were your first reactions, fellas? What did we think? James.
Me? I didn't study for the test!
Because Joe ignored me.
That's true. And he did call you a
Fair.
piece of shit. I heard it. It wasn't me. It was
Actually, I was the only one who didn't say that.
No, that's
so
definitely what Joey said.
pretty sure.
You implied it.
Or did you infer it?
Oh.
Samantha.
All right. First reaction.
James?
So, I thought the movie was good. Overall, written very well. I thought it was very high production value. Very high production value. It was... I think they did a very good job with lighting in this movie. That was one thing that I noticed. I feel like they did a good... Like, it was a very serious movie, and it was a very, like... They had subtle tonal shifts with the lighting that they used for the different characters, which is something weird that I fixated on while watching this movie. But I thought they did it very well. In addition, I think the characters were memorable, and it was interesting the like social commentary that ended up happening towards kind of the end of the movie. So overall, I did really like it. I thought it was a very this is actually a good movie. This isn't one of those ones you can like have on in the background and like casually watch. Like, the more you pay attention, the more you're gonna get out of it. So, but that's my first reactions, and I'll send it over to Joey.
Yeah, I also was pleasantly pleased with this movie. I thought I was not going to hate it. I knew it was going to be good quality, but I thought, I don't know, you know me, in our last Time Piece movie I wasn't a big fan of. But I really enjoyed the writing of this one. The acting was incredible. Timothy Chalamet really showed his range in this one. Like James said, there was great production value. I didn't really think it was like over the top, which I was like surprised by, because I thought for a movie like this, I feel like you need to go over the top to be successful, and I think they really kind of like used what they had and used it well, type of thing. They really kind of focused in on what they had and made it work. So thought that was really good. Well done. A couple gripes, just with timepieces in general and some other things like that. A little slow burn at times, but like James said, if you're actively sitting down paying attention to this movie, you'll enjoy it and get a lot out of it. I almost think that this would have been better in theaters than like as a streaming movie, but obviously it was a Netflix movie and that's the world we live in now. So
I super agree.
James
with that.
agrees.
James with the connection.
Super agree with that.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in the same realm here. Like realm. Like,
shut up.
I think we're all. I was gonna say to you guys off air, but I'll say it on air. I kind of like fucked up picking this movie because like it is kind of like a good movie, and I like as it was starting out, like the first half hour, I was like, oh shit, like this is going to be an actual good movie, and I'm actually going to have to critically think about like this movie.
You can't turn your brain off and just shit on it.
Yeah, I can't just be like, this movie's a piece of shit, and this is why. Like, I think it was actually a pretty good movie. Joe, to your point, there was some slow parts, but generally I think the pacing was okay, aside from like right in the middle when it kind of bogs down a little bit. The action sequences were cool but they were used sparingly. Kind of like you said, Joe, they were used effectively and not like just over the top, which I appreciated. Acting was great. I like Timothée Chalamet, although he is kind of like a medieval Paul
Atreides
in this movie. Yeah. But he was great. Robert Pattinson, I really like. I thought he was really good. Joel Edgerton is another one where like I'll watch a movie with him in it and I'm always pleasantly surprised. Like he's not in like all these like big movies, but he's in enough where you're like, I know that guy, and he usually does a good job.
Who did he play?
Like I can't think of an example. He played John,
Yes.
Sir John, his friend. So yeah, or he played Uncle Owen in the prequels in that one scene. But anyway, yeah, I liked it. I thought it was not a waste of time.
Yeah.
Can I chime in real quick on a comment you made about you picking this movie and like you thought you like messed up? This is the exact like kind of movies I wanted to like discuss when we like started this, because it is a good quality movie. It's great, but it's one that you always kind of like push off because you're never in the right like mindset. You're never like, do I want to commit to that? It looks long. It looks kind of like slow, but it is a good movie, and I'm happy that we got the chance to actually watch it. So
again,
that is a good point, Joe, because it is. We are trying to find like those good movies in the Netflix or the
diamond
services.
in the rough.
The diamonds in the rough. Because there is so much shit on streaming, right? Like nowadays, Netflix, Amazon Prime,
Hulu,
HBO Max,
Peacock,
Hulu, they're pumping a bunch of shit out because they can, and then like they want to see what sticks, right? Like,
well, there's
they
also
already
a
got their money,
market for
so-
everything.
Right.
Like
that's true.
Now there is going to be 5 people who enjoy those shitty movies, and I'll be like, okay, great, we made something for that person.
Yeah. That's because their exposure is
And-
insane. Like the actual exposure of streaming services is nuts because they literally like dictate a market based on like they created a need that wasn't there and then absolutely monetize. Like there's like a content war going on for specific shows, and it gets to a point where you need every single platform because you want to see one thing on every single platform. So,
which is crazy. This will be my last comment before we can go because I know it's kind of getting long, but there's so much out there that also you just never see or know about. Like, I searched for this movie, and 17 other Netflix original films and TV shows came up that had similar titles that I've never heard of that all also looked very interesting. And it's just crazy that there's so much control in the sense of what we watch and how we, like, as a society, determine what is successful, because of what Netflix wants to sell or what any of these streaming services want to sell. So I was happy with this movie because they do push it a lot, but it was also not like everybody was talking about a type of movie.
But did those other movies have Timothy Shamalama Ding Dong in it?
Honestly, probably. He's in everything.
Yeah, it's true.
That is a great thing about like streaming services, though, is that they can, because they already have their money, right? Like they're not a cable where, you know, their money is dictated on how many people watched one thing, right? So they can take a chance on X, Y, and Z and throw a bunch of money on it. And if one doesn't do too well, it doesn't matter. They already got their money from the subscribers. But then when you have one like a Stranger Things or
Squid Games,
well, they're also
Squid
not
Games, where so many fucking people watch this, like where they're probably seeing people subscribe just to watch this stuff, then it's like they've made their money on all the shit that they've put out. So you get a bunch of shit to get that good stuff, which is a good thing. Could be a bad thing, but that's why we're here, because we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're watching it.
Streaming is also not limited to time. Like there's no prime time for streaming. Whereas before it was like, okay, we need to get 10 million viewers to watch this show at 8 o'clock so that we can get the advertising dollars. They don't have that, so they can just create more. People will watch it whenever they want.
Thank you guys for tuning into our streaming podcast. Like our overall.
Yes. But our basis here, our bread and butter, James, we'll start with you again. Are you pressing play or are you scrolling on The King?
I am going to press play because I do think that it was a good movie. I do think so. There's one point that I want to make before we move on. I wanted the whole like streaming conversation to happen. I didn't want to interrupt, but there's one thing. I feel like, to talk to Joey's point about, you said it was slow. I think it was slow because it decided to ground itself in realism. Like there's a lot of realism in this movie, you know, because there's a lot of times, especially with modern medieval warfare movies, where they're just like, there's tons of people and all the fights are super cinematic, you know, where this time they were like, okay, they had a lot of people, but like, even though they have a shit ton of boats and stuff, like they can only bring so much equipment. They only have so many supplies. They only, you know what I mean? Like it was slow because they wanted you to feel like, oh, like stuff just doesn't work out for these guys, you know?
So I know what you're saying, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you, dude. I think that it was slow because of like what you're.
I'll say this.
I think
speechless.
No,
I win the argument.
I got it.
No, I don't want to interrupt Kevin, but I think I know what he's gonna say.
It wanted to do that, right? Like, I think it wanted to lean into that political side of it, the struggles that they face,
the diplomacy side,
the diplomacy side, and use those action scenes sparingly, right? Don't just make it another just action flick or medieval action flick. But I don't think they leaned into it enough. Like, I don't think that story and the political side of it and all those issues that they brought in, I don't think they did it well enough where like you could say that it was slow for a good reason, if that makes sense.
I know
like
what
it was
saying.
Slow, and they also didn't really capitalize on that part of it. But those action sequences were good payoffs. So like I didn't hate it that much, and there was only really one chunk that I felt was like paced poorly. So I don't know. Is that what you were thinking I was saying, Joe?
I do, just to retort, because I feel like
no, you don't
to have this
retort,
whole
not in my courtroom, not while
to
I'm
have
his first reaction is taking forever.
Yeah, all right. To have,
what I say
to
goes.
have
That's
this
the end
conversation, we're gonna need to have spoilers. So I think we punt this one till after the break. Go back to my keep scrolling, whatever. Keep scrolling. Press play. I press play, and I'll throw it to Joe.
That was so confusing.
Shut up, Kevin.
Just cut everything after James said I press play.
Press play.
No, I am going to agree with James. I'm going to press play on this one. I do think it's entertaining. It's good quality, good acting. I think it has a broader audience than just the male kind of war demographic that it seems like it's being pitched to. But I also can see why people would not want to watch this movie, because you do need to pay attention. It is a type of movie you should be in theaters where there's no distractions of cell phones or computers or anything else. But because like every scene does serve a purpose. That's why I was okay with it being slow, because they do a lot of character development and a lot of world building, which I love. So it's got a slow burn, but it serves a purpose for that slow burn. So I understand if that's not something for you, but for me, and I think a good broad audience, I would say press play.
Kevin.
All right. I think I agree with both of you. I think I'm definitely pressing play. We'll get that out of the way. But what Joe said is spot on. Like, you can't just sit, like, it's not a background watch. It's not like a lot of the other ones we've been watching lately where you could really put it on in the background and just let it run and jump in here or there. This one you really have to watch because, like Joe said, everything's used. Everything is important to the story. So you got to pay attention. But I would watch it if you're into historical action drama. I thought it was pretty good. So
Nice. Sounds good.
So we'll kick it over to our sponsors. If you want to come back for the full movie podcast where we get into the spoilers, that's awesome. Join us after the break. If you haven't seen it yet and you want to go watch it before you join us, go ahead, go watch it. You got 3 plays already. That doesn't happen too often. Once we get our wiki page up, we'll know. But yeah, we'll see after the break.
Wait, before you go to the break, subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us rate us on Apple Podcasts. So, quick plugs.
Thanks, James.
Sponsors.
Yes.